Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining me. Welcome to the kitchen table. You guys know me. I'm Kenny D, and today I have a very special guest. I have a man here with the career and experience most firefighters dream of. From companies he was assigned, from eras and areas he has worked, Brooklyn to Harlem, the war years and layoffs, into Y2K and 9/11. This man has seen and done more than most firemen will ever know. I'm sure you've heard the names Patty Brown and Ray Downey. These names are etched in stone in the FDNY. Their leadership was unparalleled. But there is a name you might not have heard as much, but you should. He works side by side with these and other legends of the FDNY, and he has become one of these same leaders. People who do know his name always speak it with honor and respect. I know this. I witnessed it myself because I've seen it personally when I've talked to people about this man. It is my humble honor to welcome retired commander of the 9th Battalion, Chief Charlie Williams. Chief, how you doing today?
Great, Kenny. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Chief, I really appreciate you taking the time out, and I'm really hoping you remember all these stories and experiences that you have. So you sent me a list of all your companies and stuff like that. So we're going to go over those real quick, and then we'll get right into it. So you were appointed to the FDNY 11/24/1973, and that is 4 days after my birthday. That's great. So and you were assigned to the ladder 110 from 1974 to 1978, and then you went up to Harlem, to ladder 28 from 1978 to 1982, and then you got assigned to Rescue 2 back in Brooklyn from 1982 to 1987. Promoted to lieutenant in 1987 and assigned to the 1/6 Battalion back up in Harlem. And you got assigned to ladder 30 from 1988 to 1990. Then you moved over to Squad 41 from 1990 to 1991. Back to Brooklyn in 156 truck from 91 to 92. Then 166 truck, 92 to 93. Then you got promoted to captain in 1993 and assigned to the 15th Division, wherein you got the assignment to be the captain of Engine Company 283 from 1993 to 1999. You were then promoted to battalion chief in 1999 and assigned to the 3rd Division. Then got assigned to Battalion 9 from 1999 to 2008, where you became the battalion commander of the 9th Battalion. I mean, what a career, what experiences, engine companies, truck companies, unbelievable, Chief. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, it was great. I no regrets. I wish I was more cognizant of what was going on when it was going on, because when I think back, it was great. It was good people, did great things with a lot of guys, and it was had a lot of fun. Yeah. My father was a retired fireman, and he talked to me. He goes, you work on the holidays, you work on the weekends, and he goes, but you go into the firehouse. How bad could it be?
Yeah. It's like it's your second home. It really is. So is that how you got into the fire department because your dad?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. He didn't talk too much about what he did. He got on the job, I think, in 1959. Wow. And he went to Rescue 2, and he was in 209 engine when 209 was a single engine on Taffy Place. And then now I think, I don't even know if they might have closed them. They wound up being with 102 truck on Bedford Avenue, Bedford Express, I think they called them. And then, but he went to Rescue 2, I think in 1962, 61, 62. He only had 2 or 3 years on the job, and he worked with some characters.
Wow. So getting into a rescue company right out of an engine company, not too long on the job. So let me ask you something. Does that say something about back in the day, guys not wanting to go to the rescue companies? Was there an issue with that?
No, you know what? I don't know. And he, like I said, I don't know what the criteria back then. Like if you were good with rigging, if you had certain skills, mechanical skills and stuff like that. That like you. I think his skill was he was just a tough guy.
As they all were back then, for sure. Yeah. So you're originally from Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, originally from Brooklyn, born and raised.
So how is the neighborhood And Brooklyn back then, was the city burning down around you, or like, you know, I know the war years started kind of in the 60s.
Where we lived, it wasn't so bad, but you didn't have to go too far to be in neighborhoods that you might not want to. You might want to be in, but I mean, I went to high school. I took the train to Prospect Park, and then took the bus into Bedford-Stuyvesant all the way to Bushwick. And,
wow,
that was the experience. You know, I learned how to. I was a skinny little 105-pound kid, so I wasn't looking to get into any fights. You know, so I learned how to mind my own business.
I bet going into Bushwick to
riding the bus or getting on the train, just keep walking, keep your head down. Don't.
Yeah, yeah. Those neighborhoods have changed significantly, I would say.
Yeah, I wound up eventually going to a lot of fires in that neighborhood.
So you get on the job, right? And was there a civil service test back then and everything? And
yeah. We took civil service test. I'm trying to think. 73. I think 71. We took the test. And this test wound up being the first list that they hired. What was it? 1 in 4. Or I forget what the 1 in 3 with the minorities. They had to for so many white guys, they had to hire a minority. And that was the first list. And I think that because of that, my brother didn't get on the job.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They never got to his list number.
Oh, wow. Huh.
And what was I? I was number 1662, I think.
Wow. So you remember your list number?
My list number. and yeah, so it was, you know, the test was, you know, the written test, which I thought. I walked out of it. I thought I didn't get anything wrong, but I wound up getting called, you know, pretty soon thereafter.
Yeah. So you get into proby school, November 24th, 1973. You go to proby school, and how long was proby school? 3 days?
Well, proby school was, I think it was either 4 or 6 weeks, and we went to proby school in Welfare Island. Not on
Randall's Island.
Well, not on Randall's Island. We were in Welfare Island, which is now called Roosevelt Island.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That's where proby school is. There was only, I think, 1 or 2 more classes after us, and then they moved it to Randall's Island.
Yeah, so all you guys were doing was firefighting back in those days. Nowadays, the guys are doing all sorts of stuff. It's like 6 months long. You guys did 4 weeks of just straight up firefighting.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, that was the main concentration of the training was all the evolutions, and the evolutions were all based pretty much on firefighting. You know, and they dabble into emergencies, gas leaks, water leaks a little bit, but the main emphasis, you know, was firefighting and going home safe.
Right. So you get assigned to ladder 110 in 1974, January of 1974, correct?
Right.
So how was that? How was it being proby in 110 truck?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was a senior company. I remember a lot of guys. My first captain was William Will. Matter of fact, I have it downstairs. I have a letter from Captain Will, a recommendation letter when we got laid off in '75.
Right.
And this is a recommendation letter, but he was, don't worry, kid, you won't get laid off.
yeah. And I wanted to bring that up, but you were on the job 2 years, basically a year and a half. And do you knew these layoffs were coming a year and a half beforehand?
No. They kind of snuck up on us. That was what? It was 1975, July 1st, 1975.
Wow.
Was the layoffs. And I was laid off until Christmas Eve, 1976.
Really?
Yeah.
So July of 1975 to Christmas of 1976, a year and a half, you were laid off.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I didn't know it was that long. Wow. I thought it was only a couple of months.
No, a year and a half. A bunch of guys, I think I remember, it's stupid thing you remember. I was the 92nd guy to get laid off.
Wow.
So they had laid off hundreds of guys. A lot of guys came back within days. And then a bunch of guys, I don't know, a couple of hundred, probably 250 or so, we're out for a year and a half.
Wow. Now, what would make the difference of guys coming back in a couple of days aside from a year and a half?
Well, your seniority.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It was all done by seniority.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
So the city's in the middle of burning down, right? And they're laying guys off and probably closing houses.
It was all politics, because they laid us off, and just before the layoff, they actually started minimum manning, so you had to have 5 guys in the truck,
right.
5 guys in the engine.
Yeah. Wow.
And so they were paying overtime. Guys were making a lot of money.
Man, what did you do when you were laid off?
I started painting houses on my block. I lived on East 17th Street in Brooklyn. I was painting the exterior. I did my mother's house and my father's house. And then I probably painted about 12 to 15 houses on that block. Really? I think like for $200 a house, I was painting.
Just right down the line. Hey, next house.
Yeah. That's kept going. And then eventually I actually got a job with Varsity Transit, a school bus. I drove the yellow school bus.
Wow. I know a couple guys that got laid off, and they were driving city buses.
City buses, yeah.
Yeah,
a bunch of guys got that job. I probably could have got that job, but Varsity Transit was paying the same as the city bus driver.
Oh, there you go.
and you worked, you worked from 6 a.m. till 9 a.m, and then from 2 p.m. till 4 p.m, and then you took the bus back. And
just picking up the kids. That's it.
And I got medical benefits and everything. Matter of fact, my wife wound up getting pregnant. We had a second child, and she was born November 1st, 1976.
Oh, okay.
And Kathleen, and I think the hospital bill was like $4.50 or something. So it was great. It was, it was great. It was good that we had insurance. There was
yeah. Well, I guess you had a lot of time, with the layoff, then you have a kid. So there you go.
Yeah.
So you're assigned to 110 truck. Do you remember your first fire in 110?
I remember. I'm pretty sure I remember my first really substantial fire. It was down by I think it was Furman Street in Brooklyn. It was like a warehouse or something, and they were like 10-foot ceilings. So again. Now, 1973, I'm a guy 5'7" and maybe 120 pounds, 125 pounds, and they give me a 10-foot or 12-foot hook and start hooking ceilings.
Yeah.
And I almost collapsed hooking ceilings. I swear to God, my memory is even Rescue 2 was there too. They were at the fire. And I swear they were laughing. They were all laughing at me. They know because they knew who I was. Oh, that's Jackie's son. Breaking my chops.
They're probably all standing around you in a circle. Just
yeah. Over here, kid. Pull over here.
Places you didn't need to pull. They're like, just pull that too. Don't worry.
Oh yeah. That's one memory I might have. And I had a nice fire on Carlton Avenue, which was actually right down from 210 and Rescue 2. And I remember the officer from Rescue 2, Conley, his first name, not Audie Conley, Marty Conley. He lived in Marine Park. He actually passed away a few years ago. I stood there and he kicked the door down. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
I'm ready with the irons. Boom! I said, all right, we don't need to do that.
Okay. There was some guy that could just do
that way too.
Yeah. All right, so the layoffs, and you finally get back on the job. Now, did they give you back your seniority? How did that work?
They gave us the opportunity to buy it back, so I was able to buy it back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha. You come back, you go back to 110 truck, but then you get up to 28 truck. Now, how did that transpire?
That transpired when, I'm trying to think of the year, let's say 178. So I think it might have been in 78, or there was a blackout.
In the city?
Yeah. And I was with my brother-in-law in Brooklyn Heights, painting somebody's apartment. We were doing a side job, painting somebody's apartment. And we would go, and because he worked during the day, so we would go at like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and work till 9 o'clock at night. Well, then the blackout, and I look out the window, and you could see Manhattan. I goes, we're in trouble.
Oh man, yeah.
So we gather our stuff and we leave. We get in the car and we're driving down Flatbush Avenue, and that was tough. That was a tough ride.
I bet.
It was a tough ride. And it was a tough ride until we got to like Flatbush and Foster Avenue, Farragut Road, and I'm going, man, I only live about 4 blocks from here.
Yeah.
And we went back, and then I started talking to my wife, Patty, and I said, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was scary.
Right.
Said, we got to get out of it. So we moved up to Carmel, New York. I found my house in the New York Times, $36,000.
Nice.
Private lake community. Yeah, nice. It was great. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
But and so now I'm working in 110. I'm living upstate, and I put in for a transfer. And I put in, I didn't even know what I was doing. I put in 26 truck, 28 truck, any of the companies, all 23. I put all the companies up in Harlem.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? When I was in high school, I had a music teacher. And the priest was the chaplain for the fire department.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'll think of his name. And I called him up, and I said, Father, I could use a hand. I'm commuting like 100 miles away. He says, can you help me out? Which was, okay. All right, great. I'll get back to you. He calls me back, I don't know when, a week or two later, and he goes, okay, you got it. I'll go, oh, where am I going? He goes, I don't know, whatever you put down. He goes, so I went to 28 truck.
Nice.
And
nice.
And that was an eye opener. I mean, downtown Brooklyn was and Fort Greene wasn't the best neighborhood, but wasn't Harlem.
Right. So back in the day, a lot of firemen lived close and in the area of their firehouses, and the families were around, and this and that. Yeah. I mean, even my father, when he was in rescue too, and even in 209, he would jog to work. It was only like 5-6 miles. Right, like
he would jog to work.
So it's kind of the same thing with the Wallbounds fire. All the families were lived close, and some of the families were even at the fire. And
the Highway Firehouse. All those guys lived really pretty close. The furthest, maybe some guys might have lived in Staten Island, but other than that, maybe a couple of stragglers that lived out on the island. But most of the guys were Brooklyn guys. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't respond to that fire, did you, Wallbounds?
No, I was working that day in 28 truck, and I was on the house watch.
Really?
And we didn't, and the bells came over, whatever, second, third alarm, and I'm going, well, so we didn't have scanners back then, so I went to the rig, turned the rig on, and changed the frequency to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I was listening to the fire over the scanner on the rig, and
man, that's a tough one.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, for sure. So you're up in Harlem, the Harlem Hilton, 28 truck. What was it like dealing with Harlem from Brooklyn?
That was an experience, I mean, I was a city kid. I thought, I'm driving down these streets in Harlem, and I'm going, what am I in like I'm in a valley with these mountains on either side of the street, you know? Look at the size of these buildings. You know, you know, and they always broke my chops. Yeah, Brooklyn, we're 2 stories, 3 stories. That's all.
Did you get the height thing? I got the height
thing.
The
height thing, yeah, forget it. Forget it. I mean, you know, after a while I go, you gotta do better than that. I says, I heard those all. I heard them all.
They would tell me
heard them all.
So they would say short buildings and tall stories. Brooklyn, yeah. So you're up in Harlem in 28 truck in a Harlem Hilton. Great house, great guys, great group of guys. You probably make friends forever that you still have today. Do you have any significant fires that you remember in 28 truck?
Well, let's see. Well, the one that is foremost in my mind is when Patty Finnegan was working in the truck, and we had a covering officer. He was on, I think he was on the can, and we went to this job. I forget, it was over towards 59 and 30. It was one of those blocks, probably between Lenox and 7th, and it was a lot of fire. And I had the OV, so I went to the rear to go up the fire escape, and when I got to the rear, from the 3rd, the 4th, 5th floor, all I could see was fire.
Wow. I'm
saying, well, I'm not going to be able to do anything here. I could hear George Campbell had the roof. George Campbell made a rescue at that fire. He got people out of the top floor. He was the roof man, and
wow.
I couldn't even, there was this fire and the smoke. I could hear them. You hear people screaming. I can hear George yelling at them. I think he must have come down and the gooseneck and got him and brought him up. But so I give a report to the chief, and then I go. You go through that little alleyway, and then there's a courtyard, and then I get into the little courtyard, and there's a fireman laying on the ground.
Wow.
I'm going, holy crap. I go over to him, and I see it's Patty Finnegan. And I look up, and I'm like, where the frick did he come from? He was still alive. He had his mask on. I took his mask off, and the radio the chatter is ridiculous. And I'm trying to get on. I says, Patty, I'll be right back. I said to him. I ran to the front, screamed guys to help, come down and get him out of there. But
wow.
He wound up with some burns on his hands. I think maybe his ears, and he fractured his hip. I think he landed on his hip. He had a few broken bones, ribs, and stuff like that. But we went up to the hospital that night to see him, and I said, Patty, I said, why'd you jump? He goes, Charlie, as soon as I found the window, there was no question that I had to leave.
Wow.
Man.
Wow. There was that much, like he knew.
So much heat.
I'm pointing the window and I'm jumping.
Yeah. I got to get out of here. Can't stay here. You couldn't stay here. And it's funny, those thoughts come back to 9/11 when you see people jumping out the window. And you go, you know what? I understand why they're jumping now. They can't stay there.
Yeah. Yeah, they already made that decision that they were going, right? That's crazy. Now, what floor was he on? What floor did he come out?
He was on I think the 3rd or the 4th floor. And he went down to the basement.
Holy shit. Wow.
Yeah, he took some flop. And there was, in the beginning, there was rumors, he landed on garbage because there's always garbage. But there was not that much garbage there.
He was conscious when you got to him?
He was a big guy. He was a big guy, a big husky guy. Yeah. And he took the hit pretty good. He took the hit. But he never came back to work. He was just off probation. I don't know if he had a couple of years on it. His brother Downey worked in 28 truck. And
Danny Finnegan.
Danny Finnegan.
Yeah.
And Danny's still alive. He's kind of sick. He's banged up pretty good.
Right. Does Pat have a son? Does Pat have sons on the job? Do you know?
Patty? I don't think so.
No,
I know his wife. I don't even know if he had children at the time.
Okay, because there was a guy in my squad, guy named Gene Finnegan, I believe his name was, and Billy knew him, Billy Flynn.
Yeah, he was a Staten Island guy, I think. Yeah, no. They were this family. The Finnegans were from Woodside, Queens. There was a bar, Finnegan's Rainbow.
Okay, gotcha.
The father owned the bar.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Just out of curiosity, how did you guys package him up? How did you get him out of there?
They brought in the Stokes. Yeah, it was kind of, trying to think. Well, I'm sure there was, by that time, it was a multiple arm. There probably was an ambulance there. They probably put a collar on him, but that was pretty much it. And got
yeah. And was he conscious the whole time, or?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's something,
I fall 6 foot off the ladder and kill myself. He goes 30 feet or so, and
that was you weren't there. You were only there a couple of years.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I remember the chief was Chief Patterson, a black man, great guy, really nice man, and he had the fire, and that was tough. That was tough.
Wow. So you're doing that. You're in the Hilton, and you get on over to Rescue 2. Is this now? I'm going to put up a picture here. Is this
okay? That's my father on the right.
All the way on the right.
All the way on. I'm looking at the picture. All the way on the right. That's my dad. Under the two.
Hair with that DA haircut.
Yeah.
That's your dad.
Now the guy standing next to him is Artie Conley.
Okay.
Artie Conley wound up being my lieutenant in Rescue 2.
No, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The other guy I think was Big Hoppy, and I'm not sure who the last guy was. And I think my father, he was pretty good. He told me who everybody. That was Pete Easton, I think, his lieutenant. He was a good guy.
So I guess, is it safe to say that your dad had a little something to do with getting you to rescue?
Well, you know what? Things changed over the years, and I mean, I did get my foot in the door because I think I went and I talked to Freddie Gallagher at the time to try to go there, but for whatever reason it didn't work out.
Right.
But then Freddie got promoted to chief, and Ray Downey was the captain.
Okay.
Now Ray Downey was a fireman in Rescue 2 with my father. So he and now, I remember when I was trying to go to Rescue 2, I was in 110 truck when I was talking to Freddie Gallagher.
Okay.
Now I'm in 28 truck with some experience, and I go down and I talk to Ray, and it took a little bit of a while, but not too long.
Sure.
I remember I was in the kitchen in 28, and department phone, Charlie Williams. I pick up the phone. Hey, Charlie, yeah, it's Captain Downey. Hey, Cap, how you doing? Because you ready? And now there's old guys standing around. I'm going, yeah. He goes, okay, the paperwork's going to come through. I says, all right, that's Cap, bye. I didn't say a word to anybody.
They were probably all listening pretty intently, though. Yeah.
That was a difficult move for me to leave 28 truck. It really was. To this day, some of my my dearest and closest friends are guys that I worked with in 28 truck. And, and fortunately, I'm able to see a few of them in Florida.
Well, nice. I may be a little biased, but I think it's the best battalion on the job. The best. Those guys. Obviously, I'm from 59, and working with those guys in the Hilton were just gentlemen, professionals. Just really, really great guys, and just a great.
Yeah, it was with mixed emotions. The thing was, it was also I was commuting from Brooklyn to Harlem, which was a tough commute, but I wanted to give Rescue 2 a shot, and and it worked out. It worked out great. Worked with some really good guys in rescue.
Nice. So you get over to rescue, and now we got a little.
Yeah. This was early on. There's Ray. Guy on the bottom right is Al Steinhardt. Lee Ayelpi on the left, kneeling down. He lost his son on 9/11.
Oh man.
Who was Jimmy Rizzo's in the middle there, and Richie Rotans is with the mustache on the left.
Yeah.
And who else is the guy? The guy on the left with the radio, Billy. He passed away. He passed away not too long ago.
Oh man.
And, but yeah, this was a building collapse. It must have been at the change of tours because, but it's like everybody jumps on the rig.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of guys in that picture.
Yeah, everybody jumps on the rig. So I know I was working, but everybody jumps on the rig, and it was nice. We did some good work getting him out of there. He was kind of trapped in the basement, and we got him out. Nice.
I'm going to pop up a couple more rescue pictures here. Let's see what we got. Here we go. Tell me about this one. This one looks legit.
Yeah, this is me, and that's Patty Brown on the ground.
Patty Brown.
Yeah. And that picture wound up being on the front page of the Daily News, the national paper all over the country they sent out. It was on the front page of the Daily News. Yeah, that fire was in a warehouse. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. That fire was in a warehouse right underneath the Manhattan Bridge. Right next to the Manhattan Bridge. And me and Patty we must have been the 4-above team. We went up together, and our lieutenant Jim, he's passed away. A lot of guys died. I forget his name, but he told us, he goes, go open the door to the fire escape. They had the door where the bar you push and you open it up and you could, because it was a big commercial warehouse and you can get out into the fire escape. So me and Patty, we go, and it's wired shut.
Oh wow!
So me and Patty were working on it. Get it? We get it. Boom. Okay, good. Let's go. Now we're listening to radio. The fire seemed to be knocked down, and kind of just moseying towards the fire, and we could see the smoke was above our heads. It was, there probably was 15-foot ceilings, 15-foot ceilings, and we're moseying towards the fire, and all of a sudden, boom, black,
lights out,
black lights out, and so me and Pat said, well, we know how to get out, so we turned around and we go back to the fire escape, and we go out to the fire escape. It wasn't, it seemed like minutes, but it was probably 30, 40 seconds later. And we were standing on the fire escape, looking down the side of the building, and fire, boom, 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 window blowing out, all the windows on the top floor.
Wow! It would pop out one window at a time.
Quick. Yeah, it's coming. And then there was Maydays for the guys on the roof. So me and Patty, we go up the fire escape. There were stairs, and where was a gooseneck? We go up the half landing. I stop. Patty goes up a little further, and he's yelling to the guys to come on over. We can get out this way. Yeah. And they come, and we get them down, and we go down to the floor below. We get to the floor below, and all of a sudden, Patty goes down on his knees, and he goes, Charlie. I go, Patty, what? He goes, if you have to cut me, cut me. I said, Patty, this isn't Vietnam. I says, we got ambulances here. Come on, let's go. And we bring him down to the street. So when he was yelling to the guys, he must have sucked in some hot air, and he burnt his throat. And his throat was starting to close up.
Wow.
Yeah. Matter of fact, the PD helicoptered him out of there.
Really?
Helicoptered him out of there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you kneeling? You're kneeling next to him.
Yeah, I'm kneeling next to him. And I got called into the office by the captain about this picture because it was on the Daily News, and my left hand is actually covering my cheetah.
Those days are over. That's for
He
sure.
asked me if he said, "Wait, did you have a cheater?" I said, "No, Cap." Okay.
No. Wait, don't take the picture yet. Hold on.
I'm not gonna admit to that.
Wow. No cheaters. There was no cheaters. We're not cheating.
No, absolutely not.
So working with Patty Brown, and did he was all right after that? You know.
Yeah. He was out. He was out about a week, 10 days, and then he came back to work. He was a fantastic guy. Really was one of the really good guys. And
yeah.
I remember he lived on the Upper East Side, and I had a van. I called it the Blue Bomber. It was a beat up old 40 Econoline van with a chair in it. You know, it didn't have it wasn't bench. It was a big van, open van. So he had to move. He was moving. He had been on the list to move to Stuyvesant Town.
Oh, really?
And they called him up and said, "You got a plumber." Okay. So I went up. So Patty had one room. It was as big as the room I'm in here. Mattress, bags of his clothes. You know, throw it in the van and bring him up. And we go up. And I think this might have been the first time he saw the apartment. And he goes in and he's like, he was on the 5th or the 6th floor, overlooking the East River. All the hardwood floors are redone. It was like, holy crap, Patty, this is nice. But, so he that's where he lived.
Wow. So I think here's another picture with you guys.
Yeah, there he is. There's Patty. Yeah. I'm the guy behind him. Yeah. Al Washington, Jimmy I. Rizzo.
After another good job.
Yeah. Probably looks like it's sometime. And you look at Patty's. Patty's wearing leather boots. And in the rap, Jimmy I. Rizzo's wearing the rubber boots.
Yeah.
And bunker gear then.
Right. No bunker gear then. So, like, I know that I had a couple guys on that were back in the days of rubber goods before the bunker gear. And they used to say that, like, the outside team would wear just the dungarees and combat boots because they could get up the aerial up quicker. What positions, and the guys in the inside would wear the rubber boots. What positions of the rescue would be more comfortable wearing? Is it the same kind of positions?
It was pretty much the roof man and the OV guy, the guy that was OV. If you were going, we had the inside team, and then we had a 4 above team.
Okay.
And then the chauffeur, he probably except one of the guys. Ray, the captain's driver. He always wore boots. But
he always wore his boots. Yeah.
He wore his boots in the firehouse. He was ready to go.
There's still some companies that do that. Sure. Let's see. Here we go. What do we got? Let's put who's in this one here.
Yeah. That's Al Steinhardt. He lived in Mill Basin in Brooklyn, and myself. And I'm not exactly sure where that was. You know, it was funny when you drove around and you went to fires in Brooklyn. You never knew where the hell you were. You weren't driving.
You know, it's funny. Billy used to tell me. He goes, we used to leave one fire to the other and leave some hose in the street because we wanted to get to that next fire. We'd come back and get it later. Like, that's
when I went up to 28, when I was in 28 truck, you know, we would take time, but sometimes I'd be on the roof, cutting a hole in the roof and looking. Hey, Chief, there's a fire down the block.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It was just, there was no, if you didn't catch that one, you'd catch the next one.
Yeah. Now, there's a big difference, you know, up in Harlem and the Bronx. You know, I'm sure 28 went into the Bronx a little bit like we did. And Brooklyn, the way the guys responded.
Absolutely.
Right? Gentlemen firemen up in Harlem.
There was definitely more competition in Brooklyn than there was. Matter of fact, I was a covering lieutenant. I won't even say where it was. But we were going. Actually, we were in the Lower East Side.
Yeah.
We were going to a box, and then all of a sudden it says we were 1075. We were third due, and this guy's driving, and he's driving like a maniac. And you're like, whoa, baby, okay. And we get there, and we get in like second due.
Yeah.
And it's in the projects. It's the projects in the Lower East Side. So they come up, we get it. We go into the lobby, and the second due engine's coming in. And I go, stay here. And he looked at me. I said, no, stay here. Go ahead, go ahead, you got it.
Yeah.
A couple of guys said something to me. Nothing, they weren't disrespectful. I said, listen, nobody wants to go to a fire here more than me.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to do it that way.
Yeah.
You know, that's just, besides we could have killed somebody getting here.
That's the big thing. So here
there was always it. Yeah, that was when we had the tiller rig. Now they got a rear mount.
28 had a tiller.
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
All the time I was there was a tiller. So I was there until 82.
Wow.
And I'm not sure when they got the rear mount. It was a couple of years, maybe later, 84, 85 or something.
That's a nice picture because knowing, me working up there and seeing the front of that firehouse a lot, seeing that old picture is pretty cool. So let's see. So you're in rescue. Here's another. I think there's another rescue picture.
Yeah, that's me, and that's Billy Hewitson. He was a great guy. He was a good guy. I think this fire was a good job, and we were on the floor above, and I think they were telling everybody to get out, and I think we had to get out. We had to get out into a bucket. So we get out into the bucket and go down, and then Billy Hugheson's walking down the block, and he goes, "You're in trouble." I go, "What?" He goes, "You're lost." I goes, "No, I'm not in my gear." I guess I don't know. However, we got separated, but I was fine. I think the lieutenant was happy to hear that.
So, in 1987, you received the John McElligot Medal. You want to tell me about that? How you got that one?
Well, the McElligot Medal, that was at 87?
1987.
87.
1987, assigned to Rescue 2. Yeah.
Right. Let me think now. That fire, let's see, the one fire was in 1980. That was a Goldenkranz. That was with them. And, oh, my goodness, my brain is shot.
In 79, you got the Goldenkranz medal.
Goldenkranz medal, yeah. That was when I was in 28.
Yeah.
I was in 28 truck, and that was a fire. I was on the irons, I think, and we got to the fire floor, and it was a vacant apartment in an occupied building.
Okay, gotcha.
We had a lot of them.
Yeah.
And that's you can't stop being, at least to a certain extent, being aggressive because could be people in the building.
Yeah.
So, but we got to the door, and the fire was at the door, and I said, and it was the adjoining apartment was open. So I said, "Come on, let's go in. We're going to the adjoining apartment. Go out on the fire escape, and we'll come in. We'll come in that way."
Yeah.
And we go, and that's what we did. And when we went in, there was like 2 or 3 homeless guys.
Wow.
In there. Connie Tinney, they put up a ladder into the shaft on the side. They had access, and Connie Tinney got a guy out the ladder, and I grabbed the guy and pulled him out towards the front door. And then John Marketich and the engine, he came and helped me, and we dragged him out into the hallway.
Wow.
And
It just seemed
but they all lived. All these guys all lived.
It just seemed like all you guys were doing was just pulling people out. Every fire you went to back then. Man, just fire, rescues. Wow, that's just great stuff. I'm just trying to find which do you remember which medal day that was?
Oh, that was when I was a lieutenant. So that had to be in the McElligot Medal. That had to be the McElligot Medal. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
That was when I was in Rescue 2, and it was I think it was February, and it was freezing.
Yeah.
And we had moved from Carlton Avenue to Bergen Street, and on St. John's Place, and there was all projects all around us.
Yeah.
We just had to come out of the firehouse, go across Schenectady, I think, 1 block, and we were there. And we come out, we get out of the rig, and we're running towards the front, and there's a lady running towards us. My baby's in there.
Oh man!
Right. So it was like on the 8th or the 9th floor, I think, because what ended up happening is 123 came around and they had to get really close to the building to reach it.
Yeah.
So we go up, and it's one of those you come out of the stairwell, and it's the circular. You go around, and we're going around and feeling the doors, and then we find the apartment. We crawl in. I could see fire coming out of. We must have passed the kitchen. Fire's coming out of the bedroom into the hallway, and I could sneak under it. I sneaked under it and get into the back room. I closed the door, and I could hear guys. I could hear a guy moaning, and I'm going around. The guy is hanging out the window.
Oh,
it's a double hung window, 2 double hung windows, and he's hanging onto the mullion. He's balls ass naked.
But he's out the window, hanging on.
Out the window.
Holy
and I got nothing to grab on.
Wow.
So he's holding on, and then 123, the guy came up, and he goes, I got him, and he got him. Okay. Then I do another search in the room, and I find the guy in the bed.
Oh wow.
And then Patty Brown comes in, and he's in the room with me, and we're dragging the guy out, and it's starting to get a little crazy.
Yeah.
But we get the guy
a little crazy.
Yeah. And we get the guy out into the hallway, and they work on him, and he wound up being okay. But wow. Unfortunately, because I was kind of in the beginning, I was kind of laughing to myself. It says this lady was talking about a baby. It's a grown man. I was looking, no baby.
Yeah.
There was the fire room. There was a crib, and there was a baby.
Wow.
And the baby died.
Oh man.
Lost the baby. Yeah, that was tough.
I'm gonna do one more picture before we get into you getting promoted. I don't know if you were promoted in this picture yet. Now this.
No, that's Rescue 2, and it's the reason this is kind of a favorite picture of mine is that's in Gerritsen Beach. Now, I didn't live in Gerritsen Beach yet. I mean, I lived near Marine Park, but I didn't live in Gerritsen Beach. Matter of fact, that's on Ebony Court, which is 2 blocks down from where I bought a house.
Wow, look at that. Yeah.
The Tamaqua, I don't know if you ever been to any parties or anything like that, but the Tamaqua bar is down there, and it's right behind it. But and that was I think the adjoining building. I don't even think that was the fire building.
That is an epic picture, just coming out of the smoke, like behind you. That is something that should be in a painting somewhere or a book. I mean, like the cover of a book. That's an amazing picture. That was the adjoining building. That wasn't even the fire building.
Yeah, that wasn't even the fire building. Yeah, they got I guess 321 and I forget who the other engine 254. They did. I don't remember it being. They did a good job. I think they we put the fire on. It wasn't. Kind of was. After that was uneventful. It was a little. It was a hot day and it was tough, but that was good. Yeah.
All right, so now let's move on to you getting promoted. You got promoted in 1987. And you get assigned to the 1/6 Battalion back in the battalion.
Yeah, that was terrific. So I went to the 1/6. I was assigned to the 1/6 Battalion. So it was at the time the 5th Division. Yeah, and they wound up putting me in 25 truck.
25
UFO. Single truck. Nice, good guys, great company. They had a screwball of a captain there, and but he was I think he was an old Rescue 1 guy. He was a good guy. He was a good guy, but he didn't do paperwork.
Who needs that paperwork stuff? I just want to fight fires. That's it.
He just did. you get the bag, the bag's behind him on the table behind him. He never touched it. All right. But then I wound up, Bobby Hoover was a captain in 40 truck.
Yeah.
And Bobby asked me if I'd take cover in 40 truck. And I said, sure, I'd love to. So I went up to 40 truck, and I was a lieutenant there. And I was there about 10 months. And he told me, he says, and the spot opened up. And he goes, Charlie, put in for it. I says, I'm a cup of coffee of a lieutenant. How am I getting 40 truck? I says, it's not going to happen. He says, no, just put in for it. I said, all right. So I put in for it. I didn't get it. I knew I wasn't going to get it.
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
But you got 30 truck.
But then, then I covered a little bit, and then I got 30 truck. And
nice.
And that was great. I loved it. It was like being back home, and
I
knew there was still a bunch of guys there that I knew that, and a few screwballs that were great.
Nick 28 must have loved seeing you roll up, seeing you as a lieutenant in 30, running in with them a lot and stuff. So that must have been great.
It was good. It was a lot of fun, and did some really, really nice work in 30 truck, man. Got your brains beat in, boy.
Busy companies up there.
Busy
companies.
Oh, and then and 30 truck was riding down towards 26 truck, where 28 never really did that too much. Running with different companies and going to multiple arms, going further down into. Well, we always broke their chap that we were in occupied Harlem and they were in the Fire Factory.
The Fire Factory.
Great guys, but
always great running in with them too. It's funny stuff. And then, how did you get over? You got over to Squad 41 because of your rescue time.
Yeah, you know what? I would have never left it. Matter of fact, probably. I mean, I'm not going to say it was the worst decision I made, but I kind of got talked into doing it. I guess from my rescue experience, the captain they made of the squad, they were going to reopen 41 as a squad, and he was a lieutenant, I think, in 37 engine at the time. So that's how he knew me. Yeah. And he called me up and asked me if I would come over. So I went and talked. We talked about it. I said, man, look where it is. It's Bronx, Harlem. So I did it. I wish I hadn't. Looking back, I should have stayed in 30 truck, but and then a couple of things happened in my life. My daughter had a baby at a very young age, and in the squad, although we had good group of guys and doing good work. The South Bronx was, some of the guys were tough.
Yeah.
At that time, now what do I have? It's 1980. What was that? 87, 89.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have
91.
I have over 15 years on the job, and I have kids from adjoining companies that take up, squad, take up, break, trying to break my chops. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
So and then when my daughter had the kid, and I just I went to Bill Feehan. He was great. I went to a fire in Williamsburg. Me and Richie Evers, we must have been in the adjoining building, and the engine had stretched the line to the top of the stairs, and the fire was in the back, and we went to do a search in the front, and then all of a sudden it was like, get out, and we go back to the stairs with the line's laying there, the guys are gone.
Really? Oh shit!
And Richie Evers was twice my size, and he grabs me. We go to a window in the front, and we're looking out the window, and it seems. And Bill Feehan must have been I think he was a deputy, And then he's out. He must have been out there because they put up his portable. We went down the ladder and we got out fine. And he comes over to me and goes, "You guys scared me. You guys scared me."
Yeah, I bet.
But Bill was great when I told him my situation. I went to the highway. Just it worked out.
Right. Well, highway is.
And I had the opportunity, and when I even told the captain there at the time, I said, I really wanted to go to Coney Island, and when I had the opportunity, I took it.
Yeah.
I knew a lot of guys.
One great thing about the fire department, if you have any sort of issues at home or you need something like that, there's a way to get you there. The guys will look out for you. We're all brothers. You all get there. They helped you out. They got you back to where you were closer to home and you were able to be at home.
I got assigned to the counseling unit.
They had a counseling unit back then still?
Yeah. Okay. It was kind of new.
Yeah.
I got assigned to the counseling unit, and I'd be going up to the hospital to see my grandson, and all I had to do was call them once a week.
Yeah.
And let them know what was going on.
Yeah.
I was out. He was born in March. I didn't go back to work till June.
Wow.
And it's such a great. It was such a great thing. It was unbelievable. Yeah. It helped our family tremendously that they didn't have to. I mean, he wound up being in Mount Sinai Hospital, and I would take the train. I wasn't driving. I'd take the train up to the hospital, and if I did drive, I would park by 26 truck, and they let me park, and they either give me a ride down to the hospital, or I just walk down to the hospital. It was
nice.
It was so I mean, guys watching, if you ever have any issues, God, you gotta go to them. They'll help you out.
Yeah, the counseling unit today is still helping guys out. They're even bigger and stronger than they were back then, and they'll help guys out if need be, whatever. And I believe it's still confidential if you want it to be whatever.
Yeah.
So guys, they'll look out for the brothers. So shout out to the counseling unit.
So that's how I wound up back in Brooklyn, and it worked out okay. I was able to study a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And got promoted again.
You got promoted to captain.
I would have never bet on that one.
Stop it! You got laid off, and you're still getting promoted, and now you get promoted to captain.
Yeah. And so now I go, okay, I'll stay in Brooklyn, and I got the 15th Division.
Nice, nice.
And
how long was it before you got assigned to?
It wasn't long at all. I didn't cover that long at all. Matter of fact, the division commander, an Irish guy, lived in Rockaway. And
an Irish guy on the fire department who lived in Rockaway?
Imagine. And he called me in and he asked me to if I would take 283. Yeah, sure. He goes, but listen, he goes, they have a female firefighter.
Okay.
I said, all right. I said, I'm that's not going to be an issue for me. It's no problem. Right. And I even like, even today, guys would not go to a company because of a person or poor something. I says, wait a second. I says, you're not going to go to a company because you don't like so-and-so? I said, why? Why are you going to change your life? Why did, I said, I'll adjust. We'll figure it out. We'll work it out.
Yeah.
And she wound up being okay. She wound up being good. She wound up being fine. Matter of fact, she would come into the office sometimes and say, "Hey, Cap." So she would drive once in a while, and she would drive fast, real fast.
Well,
and I would tell her, I said, "Well, Cap, are you saying I'm going too fast?" I says, "Yes, I am." I am. But but she would come into the office sometimes and say, "Cap, so and so, his roster staffing day. He wants me to change it," and she would do it. And there were guys that wouldn't do that.
Right. So she was all in. And,
she was. She got everybody got along with her. I mean,
And that's part of what makes you such a great fireman and a great leader is going, I could deal with that. It's not a big deal to me. Why? Why would that be a big deal? And if it is, I'll handle it in the firehouse, whatever. That's what makes you the ultimate professional.
I appreciate it. She, you know, there were times, you know, if you had a job and she was on a nozzle, she would be there. But maybe not as long as you would hope, but that was okay.
You know, I know guys. There's a lot of firemen, and they're not all freaking Supermen.
No, you're right. Yeah, so it worked out, well, great guys, great bunch of guys. Went to a lot of good fires. Single engine, really a different experience for me. I loved it. It was great, and you know, it was you know. And we had the division upstairs, and it worked out fine. They treated us fine. We treat them the way, you know.
And you did, what'd you do? You did about 6 years there almost.
Yeah.
More than 6 years.
Yeah.
And you were studying the whole time, I bet.
A little bit, not that much. Not that much. You know, as you went from lieutenant was the big one. You studied. Yeah. We studied 6-7 hours a day, 6-7 days a week for 2 years. You know, my grandkids, they have no conception of what studying is. You know that. You know, and honestly, I did well. I was number 8 on the lieutenant's list. I think I was number 16 or 23 on the captain's list. But I had to throw a lot of shit up against the wall to make it stick. You know, I taped fire tech lessons. I had to use all my senses. I had to, you know, to get to that point because I was in high school. I was a C student. I wasn't an A student. You can ask if my mother and father are alive, they tell you that.
So people don't understand. People who aren't FDNY firemen, I don't know about any other, you know, you might have come across other fire departments in being a chief. And I don't know if any other department has the list of books when it was paper, before it was on the internet, it was literally like 5 feet high of books that guys had to study. Unbelievable how much to study for lieutenant. I guess captain, and you know, is a little bit less.
As you go up, you know, some of the things you can. They're going to ask questions on different things, but you know, but your whole foundation is studying for lieutenant, and then after that.
So I got a question for you. Now we're working our way into like you get promoted. You know, you're almost a battalion chief. The bunker gear started coming into the job. When did you notice? I don't know if I asked you this. When did you notice like a change in like fire behavior, and how the job responded to it? Like back in the day, back in the war years or whatever, everything was wood and cotton and easily, you know, didn't burn as quick and hot. And when did things start changing to all the?
I would say when I was in 283, all of a sudden, you know, even when you went to a project fire, you know, I think that's when I remember having a thought about this. Is everything is melting. Everything is made of plastic. Yeah. And the smoke is black smoke. I said, you know, usually you vent in it, but it was definitely changing. And you know, when we were still doing, you know, vent for life, you know, but then all of a sudden I guess when I was later in my captain and lieutenant chief, you know, they started to get into, well, you know what, maybe we got to get on the radio. Maybe the OV doesn't vent right away. You know, until the line is charged, and you know, and stuff like that. Well, you know, just a different philosophy of how to do it, and you know, and we would crawl into a fire, and you know, you knew it was hot when your ears started to burn. You know, and, you know, and then they gave us the hoods. I mean, great stuff. But I think what happened in the early stages of that bunker gear, especially guys that were good and aggressive, you could put yourself into a bad situation. Yeah. You know, because you think, no, I'm okay. Well, no, it's a lot harder than you think it is. You just can't feel it.
Yeah. And that's probably like senior guys that were so used to wearing
Yeah.
And now they're wearing a bunker. They're going deeper because like, oh, they're not feeling it yet.
Yeah.
Wow. So right around like when you were a captain, like the early 90s.
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? Now, I mean, I'm retired a long time now. I can't believe it, but
yeah,
it's. I mean, I was talking to somebody about fires, and I says I can't imagine what it's like now. I mean, I'm sitting in my office. I got a paper shredder or a printer, or I mean, it's all plastic.
Yeah, everything. Even the mattresses and the pillows. They're all some sort of foam or
yeah. So I can't imagine what it must be like. I mean, just getting water on the fire is important.
Yeah. So kind of piggybacking on that, and I don't want to throw you any curveballs here, but as our job, we've always changed tactics or ideas or whatever after like a fatal fire. Fireman dies, and we would change something because of what happened at that fire. It would be evaluated. Do you remember any significant one? And I mentioned the Waldbaum's fire, and that made guys stop operating on truss roofs. Do you remember any significant jobs where something happened to a fireman and then they changed it almost like right away, like the tactics of fighting the fire?
Well, the thing that comes to my mind is matter of fact, it was 45 years ago, June 27th, when Jerry Frisbee and Larry Fitzpatrick were killed with the rope when the rope broke.
Yeah,
and they reacted. I mean, wasn't super fast, but it was pretty fast.
Yeah.
When they came out with the harness to put the rope through, put it over, and it didn't take years. It took maybe 6 months or so or more to come up with that. But that was one thing that I know that changed because of fatal fire. Yeah.
I was just curious to get your opinion on that because you've seen so much over the years. All right, so now you're promoted to a battalion chief and you get assigned to the Division 3. How'd that go?
So when I was a captain at 283, there was a deputy chief, and he'd come downstairs. Charlie, go. You got to go to Midtown. You got to go to Manhattan. You got to go to Midtown. I said,
you're like, I don't want to fucking go to Midtown.
In 15, I says, why don't I go back up to Harlem? That sounds like that sounds like a good idea.
Everybody wants to get back to Harlem.
Yeah. But so when I started to get close to getting promoted, they had a mentoring program. So I was still a captain, wasn't a chief, and they sent me to the 9th Battalion in Midtown, and I mentored with this the battalion commander, Joe Grosso, who was a 105 fireman, was a really great guy, and I rode with him. Trying to think, had to be 3 months or so, and he sold me. There was so many interesting things going on between scaffoldings and Broadway theaters and inspecting theaters and high-rise buildings and you see guys and 8th Avenue was full of old war tenements and 8th, 9th Avenue and so it was an interesting place to work, and it was about that time it was starting to come back Midtown a little bit. Disney had started pumping some money into it. They got rid of a bunch of the low life houses and stuff like that, and the prostitutes and stuff kind of went out of town. But so then when I had the opportunity when I got promoted, I put in for the 3rd Division and I got it, and they assigned me to the 9th. I was covering in the 3rd Division, and then took a while. It took about 6-9 months before the spot opened there, and I worked in the Bronx a lot. Back in the Bronx, and but then when the 9th Battalion opened, I went there and worked with Joe Nardone and a bunch of chiefs that were. Brian O'Flaherty was former captain of Rescue 1.
Yeah.
Really,
this is down here at the Intrepid.
Yeah. This was This was out in California.
Oh, I just noticed the picture of the firehouse, patch.
So what happened with that is during 9/11, there was if I get the story right, there was a girl she was a Rockette, and she had a friend that was a fireman, and wound up, long story, we wound up, they wanted T-shirts. We sent them, I think we sent them patches and stuff like that, this squadron. And they wound up putting the patch on their jets, on the Super Hornets.
Yeah. And
on every one of them. And they had, see, if you look at the top right of that picture, it says in memory of Lieutenant Danny Callahan and all.
Yeah.
Mike Brennan. That was all the guys from the firehouse that were killed. But before that, they had a single name on each plane.
Really?
Dave Woolley. Daniel Callahan was on another jet. Mike Brennan was on another jet. So it was really, it was great. And they were on the USS Abraham Lincoln, and they got, during Iraq, and they got turned around, during Afghanistan, and they got turned around on their way back and went to Iraq, and they bombed Iraq, and we wound up making friends with a bunch of guys. They came to Manhattan. We got them hotels, and then the Boeing, who builds the jets and stuff, they sent a bunch of us. There was going to be a change of command, and Jeff Penfield was the captain, and he had to leave the unit. I think it's every 2 years or 3 years they have the change of command. Mm-hmm. So we took about 10 of us with our wives out to Lemoore, California, for the ceremony.
Nice.
So we went to the ceremony, which was great, and then we went to the party after it, and it was kind of like inside outside place, like almost like a farm or something. And I'm walking around, and I see a young kid come up and goes, "You fly jets?" He goes, "They got you in one of those things?" What's up? Holy crap.
He's probably like 20 years old.
They were unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have Steve Wimbo. I still touch base with him. There's a few of the guys that I can still call and talk to. But when I went home, I said, we're in good hands, man. These kids, they're unbelievable.
Very well trained, very highly trained.
Man.
Yeah. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and just very low key guys. I mean, must have big egos, but you never know it. You never know it.
The civilians that you don't know, but probably in
Watch themselves. Yeah.
So you mentioned 9/11. Do you want to get into that, or you want to tell me your story?
Sure. Well, my story is a little different. I was going into Manhattan that morning.
Yeah.
I was helping a guy was doing a side job, and he wanted me to help him. So I took the bus up Madison. I took the express bus, got off Madison Avenue at 34th Street. And I'm walking down 34th Street, just walking my head down, and I hear a plane. Look up. Didn't see it. That's strange. Whatever. I walk. I stop. There's a little coffee shop, whatever, like almost like an upscale bodega. And I get a bagel and a cup of tea. And they got a little square TV up on the shelf. And the guy goes, "Plane just hit the World Trade Center." I go, "What, is he blind?" I says, "It's a beautiful day."
Yeah.
And it didn't click on me yet about the plane that I heard. He said, "Yeah, it was a small plane." And then I'm seeing the pictures and I'm going, "Don't look like it was a small plane." Now I have to go to work that night.
Yeah.
And I'm going, So I said, "I guess I'll be down there tonight or something." I'm sitting there. I sit there for a little while longer and watching the TV. And then the second plane hit. And I just got up and went to the firehouse. I went to the firehouse. Nobody was there. Then a couple of guys started coming in. I got on the phone. I knew we had a spare rig up in 23 engine. I called up there. There were some guys coming in there. I said, all right, throw whatever you can on the rig. And when you're ready, come down, pick us up.
Yeah.
And we all got stuff together. And there was about, let's see, I'm trying to figure out, we got about 6 guys in the back step, 7. We must have got 10 guys on the rig, 10 to 12 guys on the rig. And we made our way down Manhattan. And we were kind of lucky. We got there, I would say we got there about 20 minutes after the second tower came down. So, and as we're going down, I'm talking to some of the officers, this is probably going to be like a big triage thing. We're going to be taking care of a lot of people that are hurt and injured, whatever. Maybe people trapped. Okay, but we're trying to get into the right mindset. And then we get down there and couldn't see nobody. There was no where were the people? And one guy came up to one of the chiefs there and said that he found an emergency exit for the PATH train. So he told me to get a couple of guys. I got a Lieutenant Tarkington and a couple of guys from Fort Truck and a couple other guys, and we went down the stairs and we were on the tracks of the PATH, and now we're walking towards the Trade Center, which is only a block away, half a block, 3/4 of a block away. But you can hear muffled explosions in the distance. You can hear water trickling down, I guess, from broken pipes.
Yeah.
And we get to the train station. Now we have to wear a mask. It was smoky, but you could see. And there was a train in the station. So, and it was eerily quiet. And I said, all right, guys, we don't have a lot of time here because our masks going to start ringing away here. And we have a 5, 6, 7, 8 minute walk back. So, so I said, just be quiet. If we hear somebody, we'll go get them. We'll look for them. If not, we're taking a quick look. And as much as I'd love to stay, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
There was only so much we could do. And we never found anybody. And the stairs going up, the exit stairs going up from the train station to the Trade Center, whatever, that was all collapsed in with rubble, and so there was no way to get out. Except the way we came in.
So back.
So we wound up going back. Gave the chief my report, and that was it. And then, and then we had the 4 World Trade Center was on fire, and that was kind of collapsed. And they took us off, and we had to get back and wait. And it was like 4:00 in the afternoon when that thing came down, and then we were able to go to work. But
seven World, right? Seven
World Trade Center, yeah. 7 World Trade Center, right? Yeah.
But to get down there and to not hear or see anybody.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I know I kept saying to myself, where is everyone? You saw firemen, the guys that were there were pretty banged up or covered with soot. The guys that were fortunate enough to find cover and survive the collapse. But
were there any radio transmissions going on when you got down there? Did you hear anything on the radio? Or
I think not that much. Not that much. I know one of the guys that was banged up a little bit, and I don't even know where. I stole his radio. I said, "Let me have that."
Yeah.
Took his radio, and but then there was, after a while, there was talk. You could hear talk about they're finding somebody, and a couple of guys that were trapped in the stairway B.
Yep.
But the and the chiefs that P.D. Hayden was there, and a bunch of other staff chiefs were there, and they were handling it. it was chaos. That's for sure. You know, it wasn't. You know, we're the best fire department in the world, but we do great at putting fires out. But when they get that big, we go with fires for a couple hours, or maybe 6 hours. It have to be a real big fire, but something that's going to last months. That was a whole different.
Yeah, nobody could have planned for that. Nobody knew that was going to happen. Yeah, nobody knew what to do next. I mean,
and I kept thinking of all the guys I knew that were there. You know, Ray Downey and Pete Gansey and all these guys, all smart guys. I says,
yeah,
they didn't. I mean, I'm sure it was in their head that we got to worry about it, but what are we going to do? Leave? We can't leave.
Right. Right. You know,
and sending guys up the stairs. Where are you going to? You got to go. Where do you? Patty Brown and all the chiefs that were Eddie Garrity was in the 9th Battalion. He died there.
Yeah.
And you just you do what you were taught to do, and you hope for the best, and hope the worst doesn't happen, and that doesn't occur.
So now you got.
Yeah, this is. I'm trying to think of the day. I think it was cold. I think it was still pretty cold. But that's Lieutenant O'Callaghan, Danny O'Callaghan, and Nick Visconti, and the guys behind me for truck. I got assigned. I went back to the firehouse a couple of months, not a couple of months, a couple of weeks, for a couple of weeks after the tower. I spent about a week at the Trade Center. I said, we got to go back to the firehouse. You know, got to run a fire department. So
right.
So I went back there, and then they were putting together that task force, the World Trade Center task force, and getting guys to. They did it for a couple of weeks here and there, and then it finally developed into a pretty decent amount of guys that they would detail there for. I think it was for a month.
Yeah.
And I would go back. I'd go back for a few days here, a few days there, and then in January, they called me up and asked me if I would go down, and I said, yeah, sure, I'll go down. So I got detailed down there, and then I did them. You know, I figured, well, I'll do the month, and it's tough. It was a tough gig. It wasn't fun. It was sad. It was hard. All you were doing was managing sleep. You know, when you work 12 hours, you're off 24. Work night to 12 hours, and you're off 24. You know, it was just when do you sleep?
Yeah.
And then I remember Chief Coletta. A lot of guys didn't like him. I grew up with his brothers in Brooklyn, but he came to me and he goes, Charlie, would you stay another month? And I said, who am I going to say no?
Yeah, right.
Really, I mean, I tell people that, and I says, it's not something I wanted to do, but I couldn't say no. It just wasn't possible. It was impossible. You know, and I was getting the system down, you know, the searches, the debris, what we were doing, putting them in the trucks, putting them again, you know, and it was working, and I had it in my head, and we were getting the job done. And what happened was, as much as some people may not want to hear it, but at night, on the night shift, the construction workers, who were great guys and all, but the supervisors, and they probably had pressure put on them, but they just wanted to get the shit out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and the deal was, they take the debris, they spread it out, we'd go through it once, they'd pick it up, spread it out again, go through it twice, then they could pick it up and take it to Staten Island.
Take it to Staten Island.
What they were doing, if you didn't keep your eye on them, they would spread it out, you'd go through it once, they'd put it in the truck, and he'd be driving up the ramp.
They would take off.
I'd be on the radio, stop that truck, and then go through, send them back down. We're doing this right. We're not screwing around with this.
Was there ever, I mean, did you ever have any beef or animosity with construction heads for doing that? Like, you're like, we're trying to find our guys. We're trying to find people. And you guys are just trying to rush the shit out.
Yeah, no, I let them know. I would let them know. Yeah. It was funny because I guess they thought they could get away with it at night.
Right,
couldn't get away with it. Pretty much couldn't get away with it during the day.
Yeah.
But I mean, they knew they couldn't screw with me.
Right. Right.
You know, and then and I would go to the Port Authority, their bosses. There was two guys there. One guy does that 9/11 stuff. Not 9/11 rescue. There's a name for it. He goes around. He goes like they go to Haiti, they go to Florida for the hurricanes. They do a lot of good. They do a lot of really great work. And this guy was a sergeant, or I think he wanted to be a lieutenant, but they were good. They were good guys, and I talked to them. I said, no, this is the way we're going to do it. You know, we're trying. You know, people are trying to find their loved ones. We did. You know, when I go back, and I said that when I went back to the firehouse, I had 14 widows. I said, I want to be able to look them in the eye and say, we did everything we could to find their loved ones. And not only that, but anybody, their mother or their father, their brother, anybody that was there. I says, no, we did what we could. Guys, guys got to the point, you find a piece of a bone. Hey, maybe that could be somebody's, son, somebody's daughter, somebody's wife. Yeah. And, so, it was a very honorable thing, but it was hard.
So now you guys lost 14 guys out of that house. 14. How do you go back as a chief? Still relatively new chief, right?
Yeah.
You're still relatively new chief. Yeah. How do you go back to a battalion, a house that have lost 14 guys and how many others in the battalion and rebuild this fire department and rebuild the house and keep the guys like you said, you still have to run a fire department. There's still the world didn't, the world stopped for a couple of days in New York City, but people still started calling again. Fires started happening again.
Yeah, the fire. I mean, we were sitting there one night. This could have been 2 or 3 weeks after 9/11, maybe a month. We're sitting we're having dinner in the firehouse. Somebody comes in the firehouse and says they see a crack on the wall across the street. There was a bar that all the guys knew, everybody in it. Yeah. And it was a 2-story tenement with the bar on the first floor, or 3 stories, the bar on the first floor. Okay. All right, go out and go take a look. And I look at it, and there's cracks going up. I said, you know what? Let's get everybody out. Get everybody out, this and that. All right. The deputy, I don't even know. At that point, deputies were, they had so much work to do. I don't remember him getting there that fast. But I called for OEM. I called for we had the subway trains underneath. Right. I said, get somebody from transit here, slow the trains down, blah blah blah, and so okay. And then they come and buildings comes and they come, let's barricade it off. We barricaded off. 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Huh.
Boom. Came down.
Really?
Whole front of the building.
Holy shit. Wow.
The whole front of the building. You're looking, you can see the bedrooms now.
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah, good call. Oh my God. That's crazy because I interviewed one of my old lieutenants, Jay Walsh, engine guy, who was from 75 engine. And he said after 9/11, he was like, we needed a fire. The guys needed to go to a good fire and get back into it. Because everybody was just, all their mind was on the trade center and the families and them and their guys. And he said, once we hit that fire, it was not that it was back to normal, but you could get back into
what you were supposed to do, what you were there, what you were getting paid to do, what it was all about. And it was hard for us because not only was it our firehouse, but we lost all the guys in 23 engine. We lost most of the guys in 35 and 40 engine. So we had 3 firehouses that were in shambles. And, I go up and visit them, sit at the kitchen table, talk to them and kind of say basically what you were saying, we still have to, do what we have to do, guys, and be ready. And, we'll work this from both directions and try to get everybody on the same page and get through it.
Man, tough time. All the things that you've done and seen, and then you go through 9/11. That's tough.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I don't even know what to,
Well, you know what? I just would say. I mean, like I was 35 years, just 2 months short of 35 years, and it's just, it was. I wouldn't give it up at all, except for that one day. That was a really bad day, and
yeah. All right. Well, let's go through a couple pictures. Let's talk some pictures, and we'll do some parting words. I have a question for you about leadership, but let's see what pictures that we haven't seen yet. I think you met the mayor a couple of times here.
Mayor Capt, and that was Commissioner Beekman, and the little short guy on the left, that was Dr. Goldenkranz.
Goldenkranz.
Yeah, that's
the medal.
Yeah, he was the guy who he endowed the medal. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's great.
My oldest daughter Kelly standing in front of me, and my father, my mother, and my wife, and and the guy and the chief on the end. That is Murtaugh, Chief Murtaugh.
Murtaugh, and I think you got another one here.
That's when I was in the squad. That was over at 41 Engine.
There you go.
The people in the neighborhood were great.
Yeah.
They were bringing us stuff. They were happy we opened up. The guy standing next to me in the white shirt, that's Jack Kleehouse. I work with Jack in Rescue too. He was a lieutenant. And so he's a lieutenant in the squad. And the guy next to him is Gary Howard. We were all firemen together in Rescue too.
Nice.
And the three of us. And that was the other, and now that I think about it, that was the other intriguing part about leaving 30 truck and going. I was going to a place where two other lieutenants I worked with before, so it was. I
just want to say I know a couple squad guys, and I plan on interviewing another squad guy down the road. But I just want to let them know that it says Engine Company 41 there.
Yes. Well, you know what? We took a lot of abuse, not even not from the firemen, but from the neighborhood.
Really?
They didn't want us to be a squad.
No shit.
No, they didn't. No. Absolutely not.
Really?
Kenny, we had, and it was kind of we had nuns protesting in front of the firehouse.
Because they didn't want you to become a squad. Really? Like they were that savvy.
Nuns in habits. St. Joseph nuns, I think they were, Dominicans, whatever they were. My sister, excuse me, I got to go in.
Don't become a squad.
Yeah.
Here's another one with the Mayor Capt.
Yep.
No, he's a tall guy there.
Yeah, and Eddie was a big guy. Yeah, he was a good guy. He was good. He was fine.
Yeah, Mayor Capt. Yeah. We all remember Mayor Capt. Let's see, what do we got here?
Well, that was when I was in 28 truck. That's when we had. So the year I got the McElligot Medal.
The Goldenkranz.
Was that Goldenkranz? Yeah, that was
in Harlem.
That was in Harlem. Yeah. That was. We got 5 medals.
The house got 5 medals.
We got 5.
Man.
Tommy Neary, Ray Smith, the black guy to his left, then me, and then Watson. I forget his name. And Connie Tinney was the other guy. Connie on the right, the last guy on the right there, the black guy on the right. Me and him were in proby school together.
Nice.
And Tommy Neary, he was the best. The stories I could tell about him, he was unbelievable. He was he was a good guy and one of the toughest guys.
The Hilton.
We went to a job at a change of tours. It was just a change of tours. He was still in his dungarees and his shoes or sneakers, and we got a box, and it was nothing. We went up the hill. We went up the hill towards Amsterdam. We're coming down the hill, and we go, smell something. All of a sudden, another 2 I take in, blah, 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 blah. So we get there. We get there before everybody. We were around the corner, barely, just about.
Yeah.
We get there, and we go up. We pop the door, and it's really shitty. And Tommy turns to me, goes, "You ready?" I go, "Where are we going?" I go, "Come on, let's go."
Let's go. Come on, you ready?
Past the kitchen and find the fire. Okay, and now as fire's going down the hallway. The engine's in at the door, and they're screaming at us to get out of the way. And he's getting pissed off because he says, his point, get your ass down here. We're here. You get your ass down here. They wanted to open up the line.
Yeah.
So I said, Tommy, let's duck in the kitchen. So we duck in the kitchen. They open up the line, and then he proceeded to have words with the lieutenant.
Nice. It just sounds like you had so much fun, back in them fire days,
Yeah, it was, you work with so many good guys, and you came to rely on each other, and even like when you were second due, and we 28 was second due, and 59 and 30 were first due. You went up 4 above, and you knew 59 wasn't going to let you,
Yeah.
They're going to let you know if you got to go, you got to go. But the best thing in the world is crawling on the 4 above and then hearing that water hitting the ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
That's a good sound. And for me, the good sound was hearing the saws on the top floor.
Yeah. Somebody get some of this crap out of here.
Yeah. Let's do one more picture, and then I'll ask you your final question here. Look at that.
Yeah.
There's a guy with a beard in that picture.
Who's that? No. I'm Ray Downey's right in the middle. I'm to his right behind him, to the right.
Gotcha. I see it.
Lieutenant Conley.
Yeah.
Really, really, what a great bunch of guys. Really good guys. Wasn't the guy I was thinking of, the guy that always was the guy on the left, sitting in the chair on the left, John Barbagallo. He was Ray Downey's driver when they were in 58 engine.
Oh wow. Okay.
His son is in 28 or 6. I think he's in 28 or 6.
What's his name?
Barbagallo.
Barbagallo?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
He's up there.
Maybe.
And, we moved from Carlton Avenue with 210 to our own quarters there on St. John's, and that must have been pretty tough.
Yeah. All right, so we're at like 138, 138-ish. So let's see if I have. But what I wanted to ask you, we got promotions, we got layoffs, we talked Warriors, we talked your first fire, we talked Harlem. I asked you about firematics and how it changed over the years. Oh, real quick, did you hear about the firefighters in Idaho? Did you hear about that? Yeah, that's crazy stuff. That's what I wanted to, anything like that ever happen in your years? Like people attacking firemen at jobs? I've heard of it sprinkled here and there over the years, but anything like that ever happen to you?
Well, yeah, nothing. Well, I know you always had to be careful.
Yeah.
You didn't want to piss anybody off because there was guns up in Harlem, Sure.
We always had a great relationship with the neighborhood, and I mean, there's always going to be.
You know what? The people, 90% of the people were great. Especially the older people. You went in, they were great. I mean, and back in the 70s and 80s, there was plenty of drugs, and those guys were tough. And and it was tough, but. Nothing. Yeah, like you said, an occasional brick or a bottle thrown from the roof or something like that. But,
but nothing like the Idaho guys.
No, nothing too crazy.
Oh, that's terrible stuff, man. Awful. All right, so Chief, listen, you've been an officer for a long time, well-respected man, worked with some of the greats, a lot of experience, a lot of fires, a lot of tough things to deal with, You become the battalion commander of the 9th. This is after 9/11, and you're dealing with trying to put back together a whole battalion, a job, really. Trying to get these guys. Yeah. What would you say? I was telling you before, on occasion, I co-host with the Getting Salty guys, and they have the old school tip of the day. I've been trying to get like officers and your opinion and what advice you would give to new officers that are in the position to become a battalion chief or a leader of a lot more men than just a firehouse. So what kind of advice would you give to a guy like that?
one of the biggest things I tried to do, and I would have conversations with some of the other chiefs about it, especially in the ninth, was let the captains do their job. I think some guys become a chief and they think that they're in charge. I mean, technically they are, but that it's their company. Well, it's not it's the captain's company. Let him, if he has a problem, let him figure it out. If he needs help, yes, Captain, you need a hand? You need something? No, I'm good. I got it. Okay. And if things go sour, then you have to step in. But you have to let. Yeah, I think you have to let the captains and the officers do their job.
Yeah.
You have a guy's got a problem with drinking or whatever it might be, and I know I had a chief come up to me and says, "We got to do something about Johnny Jones." I said, "Well, let's just talk. Let's talk to the captain. Let the captain handle this. If he's got a handle on it, then let's don't stick your nose into because when I was a captain, I wanted to run my company, and if I wasn't breaking the rules or the regulations, then let me run the company the way I want to. Now, chiefs have different policies. They want you to do this, do that. That's fine. Well, I'll do whatever you want me to do. But I think you have to respect the company officers and not think that you're still a company officer, because you're not. You're looking at a bigger picture now. You got to look at the big picture, and I never understood that. Even I think when I was a lieutenant, I always used to say, even when I was in officers, what do we need chiefs for? I said, we know what to do.
Yeah,
he's just standing out there. I said, yeah, well, you know what? He's watching our ass. So you want somebody out there to. I mean, I know. I got pulled off a roof, and when I was in rescue on 4th Avenue, I think it was a auto repair shop or something, and the chief pulled us off the roof. It couldn't have been 2 or 3 minutes later, and it collapsed. This is there you go.
Yeah,
that's what he's supposed to do, So so that would be the one thing, and just treat people the way you want to be treated. You don't. I mean, I was lucky. When I was in 283, we had a chief in the division, and he was a bit of a pain in the butt, and I would have conversations with him, and I said, I said, let me tell you something, Chief. I says, at the time they wanted all the engines take a hydrant. You got to take a hydrant. I says, and you're right, they got to take a hydrant. And so you go to a thing, and the engine's not on a hydrant, and right away you're in his face. I said, well, you didn't even ask him why he's not on the hydrant. And now there really is no good excuse, but maybe there was a garbage truck. Maybe there was, you don't know. Listen, you just gotta listen. I says, because you were in his face and you blah 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 blah, and you says, and you know what the guy says when you walk away? Fuck him.
Yeah. And
my feeling when I was a captain or a chief was, if you had a problem, all right, you could correct it. You don't want to. Let's not have it happen again.
Yeah.
So if you could talk to that chauffeur or that officer in the engine or whatever it is and have a meaningful conversation, got to be professional. He's got to listen to you. Listen, I understand, but you really got to get a hydrant. Okay, maybe the guy turns around and says, what, Chief, you're right. I'm sorry, it won't happen again.
Well,
problem solved. Let's go home. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So,
wise words from you, for sure.
No.
Yeah, appreciate that.
It's not brain surgery, it's,
no one ever accused a fireman of being a genius.
no, not brain surgery. Treat everybody right, and they'll treat you right.
Great stuff, Chief. I can't thank you enough. Is there anything that you want to say? Anybody you want to shout out? Anything you want to pump? Anybody?
I say, I mean, I appreciate your compliments and all, but You know, when I was in 28, guys like Larry Flame and Connie Tinney and Tommy Neary and Jimmy McGinnis and Danny Finnegan and all these guys, I always thought they made me look good. Jack McDonald, they just made me. And when I became an officer, you had great guys in your company. I says, no, you know what? I'm just crawling down the hallway. You know, they're doing all the work. I says, you know what? And I'm just and you look out for them and you try to, like you said, you want everybody to go home and not get hurt. So yeah, no, really, I worked with some tremendous firemen. I rescued 2, Pete Bondi and Ray Downey, and Artie Conley just passed away not too long ago. Yeah, really good stuff. Even the guys in Coney Island, maybe Billy Flynn and a whole bunch of guys there that were guys went to a lot of fires at one time down there, and were good firemen, and it was great.
Yeah. Did you get to work with Billy, or did you work?
Yeah.
You could work with Billy.
Yeah.
When I asked him about you, he goes, oh yeah, Charlie will talk to you. I was afraid to ask. I was nervous to ask.
No. Yeah, we did good. It wasn't as busy as it was when he was younger fireman.
Yeah.
But we went to some fires. They had tough fires in those projects. They had those state buildings that had stairways going up and stairways going down, and what a horror! Yeah. What a horror! 283 had some of them in their district too, but really. I'm very happy. I'm sorry that there's so many guys that are sick, and I'm doing fine. I'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Chief. Don't leave yet. Don't hang up. All right. I'll do my little outro, and then I'll stop recording. Then we'll talk for a minute or two, and then I'll let you go. All right. Very good. But again, thanks so much. I'm honored and humbled to talk to you. Just knowing you so long through the family and everything, and everything, your experience. I think as I said before, I think it's really important to get a story like yours, the guys that you work with, the jobs that you caught, the experience that you had, to get on record, and so it can be passed down to younger generations, and maybe younger guys will watch this and go, you know what, I want to be a chief like that guy. And I really truly believe that. And any young guys that are listening, I should have said this in the beginning, really listen to the words that this man said and the stories that he has. We probably could have sit here for 2 weeks and told stories with all the stories that he has, but I can't thank you enough. So with that being said, thanks everybody. Remember, it must be true if you heard it at the kitchen table. Don't hang up.